Top 3 Scariest Asylum Horror Stories You Won't Believe. Do you hear that sound? The creak of a door opening in the distance? Or is it your own heartbeat pounding in your ears? Welcome to the darkest corners of the abandoned asylum, where secrets that should have never been uncovered still linger, waiting for the next soul to step inside. These are the top 3 scariest asylum horror stories that will make your skin crawl, and you'll never forget the feeling that you're not alone. But before we dive deeper, make sure you subscribe to my channel because once you hear these stories, you won't be able to turn back. Story number 1, The Whispering Hall. In the heart of the asylum's east wing, there was a corridor known only to the staff as the Whispering Hall. No patient had ever survived the night in this hall, and no guard had dared to walk it after dark. When the asylum was still operational, patients who were placed here never returned the same. Some came out babbling incoherently, others shaking with terror, but none ever spoke of what they had experienced. Then, a curious journalist, fascinated by the rumors, decided to investigate. The night he stepped into the hallway, the air grew colder, so cold it felt as though it were seeping into his bones, draining the life out of him. His flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. But it was the sound that chilled him to the core. Whispers. Soft at first, then growing louder. "Join us." His heart pounded in his chest as he walked deeper into the hall. The whispers now surrounded him, pressing against his ears, begging him to follow. He turned to leave but felt a hand on his shoulder, a cold, skeletal hand. He whirled around but no one was there. And yet, the whispers intensified. "Stay with us forever." Panicked, he tried to run, but the door to the hall slammed shut with a deafening bang. The whispers turned to screams, pleading, desperate voices, each one begging to be freed. The next morning, the journalist was found in the very same hall, his body twisted in unnatural ways, his mouth open as if trying to scream, but no sound came out. And the whispers still echoed in the dark. Story number 2, The Man in the Mirror. The asylum had a room, room 13, rumored to be cursed. Patients who were locked inside this room never returned the same. Those who did were never quite right. They would speak of a man they saw in the mirror, a figure who wasn't there when they looked away. The story begins with a patient, Thomas, who had been a quiet man with no history of violence. When he was admitted to the asylum, he was placed in room 13. The staff didn't think much of it. Room 13 was just another room. That was until they heard his screams. The nurses found him thrashing, clawing at the walls, his eyes wide with terror. When they asked him what was wrong, he spoke of the man in the mirror. He said the man had smiled at him, in a way that was not human. Every day his condition worsened. He became violent, his eyes hollow and lifeless. But it wasn't until one night, after a particularly violent outburst, that Thomas was found dead. His body had been positioned in front of the mirror, his fingers twisted as if trying to claw his way into the reflection. But it wasn't just his body they found. In the mirror, the man Thomas had spoken of, the man with the twisted smile, was there too. And as the staff stared into the mirror, they saw that the man was smiling at them now, his teeth gleaming in the darkness. Story number 3, The Patient Who Never Left. Perhaps the most terrifying story of all comes from a time when the asylum was overcrowded, and the staff had to deal with patients who didn't belong. But there was one patient who never left. Her name was Mary, an old woman barely able to speak or move, and for years she had been in the asylum. The staff thought nothing of her as she never caused trouble. But when one nurse, Lily, was assigned to care for Mary, she began to notice something strange. At night, while Mary slept, Lily would hear soft whispers, just like the ones that had haunted the other patients. And in the morning, Mary's position would always be different. She had to be helped to move, but somehow, Lily found her in places she hadn't been before, sitting upright in the middle of the room, staring into the darkness. One night, Lily entered Mary's room to find it completely dark. The only light came from a dim candle on the nightstand. Mary was sitting in the corner, her back to the door. As Lily walked closer, she whispered, "Mary? Are you awake?" The woman turned around, her face twisted, her eyes black holes of emptiness. "I never sleep." Lily froze. The words sent a cold chill down her spine. She tried to back away, but it was too late. Mary was already standing, her frail, skeletal hand reaching out toward her. And the whispers began again, louder, more frantic. The darkness around her seemed to press in, suffocating her until she couldn't breathe. The last thing Lily heard before she was swallowed by the dark was a voice that wasn't Mary's. "She never leaves." To this day, no one knows what happened to Nurse Lily. The room was found empty, but when the staff checked the mirror above the bed, they saw Mary's reflection, her smiling face, her hollow eyes, and Lily, trapped inside the glass. If you manage to finish this without feeling a cold shiver creep down your spine, you might be braver than most. But if you did feel it, if you heard the whispers, if you felt the darkness creeping in, subscribe now. Because this story isn't over. Something is waiting. And it's closer than you think. Do you dare to listen?